Good evening. The March 16th Board of Education meeting is now in session. Please rise for the invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance, stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. The pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, I want to welcome Troop 758 from Crofton. You guys are here working on your citizenship badge, so thank you. Item 2.03, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Do I have a second? All those in favor? Minutes are approved. Item 2.04, establish agenda order. Mrs. Nally.
I move that the board add to tonight's agenda item 4.08, school start and dismissal times.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Okay, so we'll add items 4.08. Item 2.05, recognitions. We do not have any recognitions this evening. 2.06 is school and community highlights. Mr. Horskamp.
So this morning I've had the pleasure to go to Severa Park High School and attend the DECA Financial Literacy Assembly. It was very well attended, where the comptroller Peter Francho attended and spoke to a number of students from Severa Park and the signature program at OML High about financial literacy. They also had a number of Severa Park alumni talk about financing while you're in college, which was very beneficial for me and a number of other students, especially when I'm in college this fall.
Mrs. Huber.
Since the last meeting, I figured it out. I've been to 12 different schools in the past 2 weeks, and it was great because I got to experience almost every kind of program that we have in the schools, and to see all the just amazing things that are going into. I went to History Day, the award ceremony for History Day, and got to see the amazing projects and things that are going on there academically. Then I got to see an example of our outstanding sports. I went to the Meade Annapolis playoff game and then to the Meade final basketball game for the state championship, and that was wonderful. I went to the Rock and Roll Revival at Severa Park High School, so I got to see the arts alive and well in our schools and all the talent there. I attended an assembly at Meade Middle School that it was in conjunction with the Arts Council that brought in a group called Step Africa, which is a great way to see the arts community and our PTA's involvement in the schools. And Monday night I attended a family reading experience at Rockbridge Elementary, where the National PTA came in and we had a dozen different stations, and families went from station to station learning different literacy aspects for their children. And so it was just a great couple of weeks that I've had going from place to place and seeing so many things. Oh, and I almost forgot, got to visit with Dr. Arlotto and go congratulate and surprise all of our Teacher of the Year finalists. So I feel like I got this wonderful snapshot of all these fabulous things going on in the school system. The only thing I realized that I didn't get was science, but tomorrow night I'm going to an elementary school for their science fair and a show they're having, so I'm going to get it all in 2 weeks, and it's just been a great time, and hats off to all those schools. It's been a great time.
Mrs. Birch.
Thank you. I also had the opportunity to see Rock and Roll Revival, which is always good fun, so I had a wonderful time there. Also had a chance to see Hairspray this past weekend at Annapolis High School, and that was phenomenal. And I do believe that right now they're probably doing a rehearsal show, and I believe that Mrs. Corblack's son is doing one of the parts as a teacher. He's doing one of the parts for the rehearsal show tonight. On Monday, I was at the West County Chamber's annual awards dinner for public safety, military, and educators, and it was wonderful to see so many of our educators being honored for the wonderful jobs that they do for our students. And most importantly, last week while I was sitting at my desk at work, doing what I do and watching a bill hearing on the screen, I looked up, and who was there sitting next to the chairman of the Judiciary Committee but Jacob Horstkamp, running the timer for the bill hearing so that each person only had 3 minutes. He was doing his paging for the week. He's a General Assembly page this year, and so they had him working in the afternoons too, and it was so nice to see Jacob. I texted him immediately and said, "Is that you?" And he texted me back. I don't know how he had time. He was very busy doing his job, but it was really nice to see Jacob there in Annapolis doing his work. Thanks.
Mrs. Pickard.
I also attended the Rock and Roll Revival at Severna Park High School, and I got it. And it was fantastic. I'd never been. We will, as a family, go every year from here on out. It was stunning. I also attended the Regional Science and Engineering Fair, which was spectacular as well. And I have to say congratulations to Allison Bowman from Severna Park and Sebastian Brennan from South River for sharing that grand prize. I know it's exciting to think they'll be off to the Intel International Science Fair, I think in Phoenix. Phoenix? Yes. I did also get to visit 2 of our charter schools that I had not seen, and it was really, really fascinating to be at Chesapeake Science Point and then Monarch Academy. So it has been a busy time, and it's only getting busier, I think.
Thank you. Last week I had the chance to go to the Mills King Awards dinner with TAC, and where they honored Susan Smith from Northeast High School. And then I went to Hairspray on Friday night. My son's the tech director. My daughter was in it. And as Mrs. Burge said, tonight the drama teacher is playing Mrs. Turnblad, the mother, if you've seen the show. And my son is Mr. Turnblad. And then on Monday, we got to go to the Blue Ribbon Awards banquet in Annapolis, where we got to honor Pasadena and Arnold Elementary for earning a Maryland Blue Ribbon, along with 4 other schools. So we were 2 out of the 6. And it was just a wonderful evening to see everybody honored. Dr. Frank.
I also had the opportunity to go to the Rock and Roll Revival, but it's not so important that I went. Dr. Olato, perhaps you can help me with, I met the person that put that program on, and she has put that program on for, I believe, over 30 years. Can you help me with the name of that lady that I met? Mr. Mano. Angela Mamano. So, Germano, please forgive me, but she's the person that deserves the recognition.
All right, thank you. The next item is 2.07, the Krask report.
Good evening, President Korbelak, Dr. Arlotto, and members of the board. My name is Scott Howarth, and I am the president of the Chesapeake Regional Association of Student Councils. Lobbying Day was an adventure. After a few years of not being able to have this event, there was a lot of anticipation and excitement. The day delivered. The plans we made kind of went out the window, and we ended up with State's Attorney Wes Adams as a keynote speaker. We'd like to thank a Severna Park Middle School teacher for helping us make that arrangement. We also enjoyed keynotes from County Executive Steve Shue and lobbyist Marina Hardy. Students spoke to their elected representatives from the Maryland General Assembly and the County Council. The real highlight of the day was when local celebrity Ted Levitt of Chicken Roost Deli joined us for the pledge and to tell us that Chicken Roost dedicated a sandwich to Jacob as a public official. It was a great day. So the real news is that on behalf of Krask, I am proud to announce that we have narrowed the field of applicants down to our 3 finalists for the student board member seat. Our 3 finalists are Jacob Baumgart from Arundel, Molly Fitzpatrick from Broadneck, and Carolyn Williams from Glen Burnie. The 3 candidates will participate in a candidates night with a question and answer session at the Carol Parham building on March 30th at 6:30. Elections to determine the candidates whose name will be forwarded to the governor for appointment will take place on April 15th at South River. Craft's constitution and bylaws call for high schools and middle schools in the county to be allotted a predetermined number of delegates based on each school's enrollment at the election. Delegates will represent student governments, the arts, athletics, and other extracurricular activities. Thank you for listening, and as always, thank you for allowing us to represent the students of Anne Arundel County.
Thank you. Item 2.08 is the PTA report.
Good evening, President Korbelak, Vice President Nally, members of the board, and Dr. Arlotto. I'm Pam Bukowski, President of the Anne Arundel County Council of PTAs. On behalf of the Council, I would like to welcome recent board members, Mr. Gilliland and Ms. Sasso. We look forward to the opportunity to work with both of you. In addition, also on behalf of the Council, I would like to thank former Board of Education members Mr. Webb and Mrs. Ritchie for their dedication to the students of Anne Arundel County. Many of our PTA schools have wonderful things going on. This month, I'd like to highlight Brockbridge Elementary School. They sponsored a PTA family reading experience on Monday, March 14th to celebrate March as National Reading Month. They were one of 50 PTAs nationwide to receive 10 free Kindle e-readers for their school through a partnership between Amazon and National PTA. Close to 100 families joined in for literacy activities. The event was powered by Amazon Kindle. Guests included State PTA President Elizabeth Light, National Director Deb Strauss, representatives from Amazon, School Board Member Julie Hummer, Councilman Andrew Pruski, and others. It was a wonderful event, and families went home with great tools and resources to encourage reading and increase literacy at home. As the Council, we continue to move forward with many activities. Ray Leone, Legislative Vice President, attended Maryland State PTA Legislative Night at the House of Delegates on February 18th. Ray is keeping a watchful eye on relevant legislation that has been introduced to determine if it's either beneficial or detrimental to the health, education, and welfare of our children. This would include, but is not limited to, such bills as the post-Labor Day start, Maryland Education Tax Credit, Thornton 2.0, pre-K funding bills, diabetes management bills, and Anne Arundel School Board Nominating Commission amendments. The School Board Nominating Commission has begun the task of sending forth recommendations for the District 33 representative to the school board. 10 viable candidates have stepped forward, with 5 being interviewed on Monday, March 14th. The remaining candidates will be interviewed on Monday, March 28th. And on April 1st, the Anne Arundel County Council of PTAs will hold our annual Founders Day Volunteer Appreciation Dinner celebration. Our theme this year is gratitude to all of our PTA volunteers. We are looking forward to having many of you join us for the evening. In fulfilling our mission, Anne Arundel County Council of PTA joins the AACPS community to engage, empower, educate, to promote equity and accelerated student achievement, to hold true that all children are capable of success, no exceptions. As always, PTA thanks you for these many opportunities to speak for every child, one voice.
Thank you. The next portion of the meeting is the public comment portion. Anyone wishing to speak on an item not on today's agenda may offer testimony during this public comment portion of the meeting. Speakers will be allotted 3 minutes each, and the board asks that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences that may be watching or viewing the meeting. Student-specific and personnel matters are confidential and cannot be discussed in this forum. This time is intended for speakers to voice their opinion and not necessarily as a question and answer period. Speakers may pose questions, but answers will be counted toward the 3-minute allotment. For the record, please give your name before speaking, and handouts should be given to the board assistant. I just have one card, Robert Silkworth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. President Korbelak, Vice President Nally, distinguished board members, Dr. Arlotto. On behalf of my colleagues, well, my name is Robert Silkworth, and I am a veteran teacher here in Anne Arundel County, and I'm also the chairperson of the High School Concerns Committee. First of all, on behalf of my colleagues, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Terry Gilliland and Maria Sasso, new board members. I congratulate both of you on your appointment to the Board of Ed. and I thank you in advance for your willingness to serve Anne Arundel County school system and our kids. I would also like to say congratulations to Mr. Gilliland for being a new father as well. For your information, the High School Concerns Committee is the TAC committee which has met monthly for many years. Our mission is to collaborate with all stakeholders to make sure that we are providing our students with the best possible education. We are teachers, but we are also volunteers. We are here because we care about our students, our schools, and our communities. You are invited to meet with us during any of our meetings. We meet the second Wednesday of the month at the TAC office on Riva Road from 3:40 to 5. We also do collaborate with the ASI TAC Advisory Group, of which I'm also a member. And I am usually available here during the nighttime meeting every month to give a report. At our recent meeting, we did discuss items such as proposed changes to grading regulations, SLOs, the status of WTR, work to rule in high schools, and the impact on teachers and staff of a semester break with 1 day between semesters. This evening, I would like to focus on a survey which we conducted about the impact of having only 1 day between semesters. I have copies of the results with me this evening to share with you, and I have left the copies for you. Basically, the results of the survey show that 87% of the teachers surveyed did not have adequate time within their workday in order to grade exams, close out semester 1, and prepare for semester 2. 87% of the teachers also said that they spent 2 to 4 hours more outside of their workday to close out semester 1 and prepare for semester 2. I believe the value, however, in the survey is not necessarily in the data. I think the value in the survey will be the comments that you will see when you read that. There are 5 or 6 pages of comments from teachers. Now, I've heard reports from some various staff who have believed that teachers only need 1 day. My high school experience tells me that teachers need every bit of the 2 days, and I believe that the comments in the survey will give you a better understanding of this issue from the perspective of the high school teacher. I certainly hope this is helpful to you. I will be sending you an email tomorrow, which will be the minutes of the March meeting. Our next meeting is Wednesday, the 13th of April, 2016, in the TAC offices. And in terms of kudos, I would like to congratulate the 5 public school finalists. That's Carol Back, Katrina Griffin, Sharon Mattoon, Alexis Paganowski, Kathleen Soares, and the 3 independent school teachers, Melissa Hilt, Stephanie Lotz, and Gretchen Moran, for having been recognized, and I wish the best of luck to them. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. I don't have any additional cards. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board at this time? Okay, we'll move on to action items. 4.01, administrative personnel appointments. We do not have any this evening. Item 4.02 is appointment of ethics panel member. Mrs. Nally.
I would like to move that Solon Webb be appointed to the School Board Ethics Panel for a 3-year term effective immediately.
Second.
Is there any board discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor? Motion passes 9-0-0. We have 4 policies up for second reading as information only. The first is 4.03 Technology Use and Security Code DI. And we had no public comment during the 30-day posting, correct? Are there any board questions or comments? Is there any public comment on this policy? Okay. The next policy, item 4.04, is Professional Staff Promotions and Appointments, Code GBP. Also, no public comment?
That's correct.
Any board questions or comments? Any public comment? Okay. The next item is 4.05, School Safety Patrols, Policy JEI. Second reading, also no public comments. Any board questions or comments? There any public comment? All right, and the fourth one is item 4.06, Violence and Vandalism Policy KG. Also no public comment. Any board questions or comments? Any public comment? Okay, we're through the second readings. Thank you. Item 4.07 is update on legislation as an information item. Mrs. Kutchis.
As of today, the House of Delegates has introduced 1,642 bills, and the Senate has introduced 1,167 bills. The exhibit that you have in front of you is up to date as of March 9th. There have been some changes since that date, but there are still no bills that we are tracking that have passed both the House and the Senate. So if you have any questions about specific bills in the exhibit, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
Mrs. Hummer?
Just for clarification, a lot of these bills say awaiting markup. Can you explain exactly what that means, waiting markup?
Absolutely. It just basically means that they've been assigned to a committee, and they either have not yet been heard in that committee, or they've been heard in that committee, and the committee has not provided either a favorable or unfavorable action.
Mrs. Birch?
Am I correct that at least in one house in the Senate, that the starting school after Labor Day bill was given an unfavorable report?
You're correct, and I understand that that bill on both sides, it does not look like it's going anywhere. But
Okay.
it was unfavorable. I can't tell you which side.
I'm pretty sure it was the Senate, but I thought that I'd seen that. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't dream it.
You did not.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on this item? All right, so how many more days do we have left till
I
sine
wish
die?
well, April 11th is sine die, but
Okay.
it's not over till it's over. That's how I
know.
feel.
So we'll have an update in April.
We will. We'll
But it won't
update
be
the
over
exhibit.
yet.
That's right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4.08, school start and dismissal times. Mrs. Hummer.
The board has had a great deal of discussion about school start and dismissal times. We have $602,000 from the county in our current budget. We are asking for $1.4 million additional in our budget requests now before the county executive. As we move forward in this budget season, I believe we must have a plan for what to do with any money we have or may receive. Therefore, I want to make a motion that the board direct Dr. Arlotto to provide us at our April 20th meeting with 2 proposed plans for the 2017-2018 school year. First, what would a shift look like if the county gives us the $1.4 million so that we have $2 million in hand in June? And second, what would a shift look like if we only had the $602,000 we currently have? Again, any change would not take place before the 2017-18 school year.
Is there any board questions or comments? Mrs. Birch?
Am I correct in that this is just asking for plans? It's not saying that we would necessarily commit to whatever those plans are?
Exactly. This is just asking for a plan for both of these dollar amounts.
Okay.
Is there any public comment on this item? All those in favor? Motion passes 900. Item 5.01 is a review item, the monthly financial status report and FY 2016 revenue and expenditure specifications. Mrs. Hummer has a question for you.
When we look at the charts and we see the percentage, what percentage exactly of the year has passed?
66 2/3, 8/12
Okay,
worth
great.
of months have gone past in this reporting period.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any additional board questions or comments? Is there any public comment? All right, thank you. The last items on the agenda are consent items, 6.01 through 6.05. Do I have a motion to bundle these and move them from information to action? All those in favor? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, all those in favor? All right, we now have an action item. Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I recommend that the Board of Education award contracts 6.01 through 6.05 inclusive as listed on tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Now, do we have any Board questions or comments? Mrs. Hummer.
The contract for the integrated transportation contractor pay system, one of the one we're voting to award the contract to has a significantly higher technical score than the others. Can you just, without super detail, because I'll get lost in that, but in general, what made this one so much more technically proficient than the other contracts?
Sure. For the record, Alex Shacknova, Chief Operating Officer. If you look on the cover page of the agenda, essentially in the specifications, we create a scoring rubric that we are asking the respondent to populate. And so we telegraph that up front. We say exactly, this is what you need to provide, this is how you're going to be scored, this is exactly what we're looking for. So the main areas were their ability to address the functional requirements of the system, their business processes, essentially how are they going to go about it, and including the management of the project, their technology plan, their plan for leveraging technology, and the robustness of their platform, and then finally the security of their technology system. So there are basically 4 areas. One's essentially, competency, one's kind of staffing, one is technology, and one is security. So those are the 4 big buckets that we were looking at, and we had a multidiscipline team, including transportation, finance, technology, et cetera, evaluating it.
Significantly higher in the technical aspect.
If you take a look at it, out of a possible score of 70, the first vendor received, in that category, technical, received a score of almost 61 out of a possible 70. The second vendor received a 47 out of a possible score of 70, and the final vendor received a score of approximately 38 out of a score of 70. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Birch.
Now, I know that last year we had tried to sort of bundle this in with our transportation routing software, and I see that this is called Integrated Transportation Contractor Pay System. So I'm just wondering what the integrated means. Like, what is it integrated with?
Right. So essentially, we have a routing. We're moving towards an automated routing system. And so in the specifications, under their functional requirements, which was one of their biggest elements of scoring, and then on the technology side, they had to demonstrate how they would be able to receive the exported information, because they have to be able to keep track of hours and mileage and a whole series of variables that calculate how much they get paid. A lot of that data is going to be export data out of the automated transportation routing and scheduling package. So they had to demonstrate to us that they had the proper integration to be able to accept that data, to make sure it's accepted in a secured fashion, that it couldn't be corrupted or co-opted in any manner, and then used to properly calculate the payment schedule that they would ultimately receive for running those routes.
Okay, so even though it wasn't the same system initially, the 2 systems will be able to work together.
Yes, ma'am. And just as a point of simple information, the software provider for our routing system was one of the 3 respondents that's before you this evening. They simply did not prevail.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Frank?
Could you talk a little bit about the timeline to provide the routing for our bus system, in terms of what we required and what was available from the potential contractors?
I'm not exactly sure I understand your question, so if you can give me, just rephrase it possibly, and I can try it.
What is the timeline for having this information available for the routing? Was that timeline determined by us, or was it determined by the potential bidders?
Well, largely we had a lot of discussions with both vendors as well as other school systems that had implemented these types of systems. We did site visits to other neighboring jurisdictions, comparable size, et cetera, that had successfully stood up these type of systems. So our performance period for the implementation of that deliverable was again informed by discussions with the industry as well as discussion with users that actually have those systems.
Perhaps you could elaborate why, unfortunately, it's going to take a while for us to have the information available so we can use it.
Well, the deliverable, the contract with the vendor has their deliverable being provided to us no later than the end of April. And then we are going to populate that populate our information and data set into the system. That's in progress. Populate the county's mapping system. So there's a lot of data import that has to go. We're going to have to then proof and validate it that information was successfully transferred fully and accurately. We will then go about the process of beginning to run simulations early on in a small scale and then growing methodically over time to run simulations on what solution sets the software will provide versus what's currently in place. And then the output of those various solution sets are going to have to be sanity checked. So we are going to have folks individually go out, drive and confirm those routes that we were not getting erroneous answers or essentially false positives as a result of that system. So it's a system that's going to eventually scale over time. We'll run some smaller pilots as we begin to gain confidence and trust and familiarity with the system. We'll then expand those pilots on an incremental basis until we have it operating system-wide stem to stern.
Thank you very much for your very careful concern that we do this right. It's unfortunate it's going to take a long time to get it right.
Mrs. Hummer.
I have a question on a different one now, the one for the maintenance of Area 4B. Where is Area 4B?
You know, you stumped me. I don't know. We've got the county geographically sliced up into a number of service areas for many reasons. One, to enhance competition, because some vendors simply, you can't say, do all 3,000 plus acres. Who's going to take that contract on? So we have them, the county, chunked up into smaller pieces that are more manageable, even for some of the smaller contractors. That's one of the issues. The second issue that we have is we don't have them all expiring at the same time. So should a contractor go under, one, we have a small exposure, and B, it's not the whole county. So it's small geographically, but it's also small in terms of the magnitude. So they're all based on geography, because we're paying for what we call windshield time, which is when they're being unproductive driving from site A to site B to site C. So we geographically group them in a pretty compact footprint and then bid these various elements. I could certainly get back to you with which specific one.
No, I was just curious if we had a area, like an Area 51, and this is Area 4B, somewhere in the county that's a special thing or something. But so would this be like schools?
Yes. Absolutely. You're right. We outsource the vast majority of our grass cutting. We certainly just don't have the staff. So we would bundle, for example, we would be bundling, a group of 9 schools maybe, and say, okay, in this area. But it doesn't align with feeder systems, because just the simple geography, sometimes the high schools and a far elementary school that elementary school could be closer to another high school. So we regroup them in a way to make sense and to reduce, again, the term we use is windshield time, reduce the amount of time that they have to drive between the sites, and then to try to balance out, because you've got big pieces of property and very small piece of property. So we try to kind of make them in a sort of an equal size grouping.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question on 6.02. Just curious, the price per gallon on the buses ranges from $1.87 a gallon to $3 a gallon in these bids. What's the reason for the big spread?
We actually control the price of fuel, not them. So they're putting in essentially a guess of what fuel will be at the time of service. Each and every month, the specifications have an index that we follow. It's a nationally published index, and it comes out of essentially the Wall Street Journal, and we publish that. We tell the contractors each and every month what is the price of fuel that they are allowed to charge us. So doesn't matter what they put here, we totally control that number, and it's the same number for each and every one of our contractors and each and every one of our routes, and it comes out of a published index that everybody has availability and access to.
Thank you. We made you work for the consent items tonight. Is there any public comment on these? All those in favor? Motion passes 900. That concludes our meeting this evening. I wanted to thank our student member of the board candidates for attending this evening. And our next, just a couple announcements. The next Board of Education meeting is Wednesday, April 6th at 10 a.m. The next Board Policy Committee meeting is Wednesday, April 13th at 1 p.m. And the next Board Budget Committee meeting is Wednesday, April 20th at 4:30 p.m. And that concludes the meeting. Thank you.